as we let the beat build on a suddenly not so casual 7-point Sunday. It is the Circa Millions 2022 premiere show. It is NFL Sunday, Week 1, 2022. It is Sharky Waters Nation, 9 Words of Lifestyle. Ride the wave out of the water. It is the gun. It is Odds Fellow. Guns Picks. We've been waiting all summer. We are here. We are now. It is 7-point Sunday. What's going on, brother?
No more Sundays off until February, boys. We are back. NFL football prime time. We're going to be cooking all season long, 10 a.m. The fire picks, the ones you want to take to cash, we'll be doing it all year. I'm going to pass to my man, Odds. What's going on, my friend?
Happy to be a part of the show. Can't wait to get this going. You guys have been cooking on Friday nights with college football. This is like my Super Bowl to get going. I'm ready. It's week 1. We are here. We got picks for the contest. We got picks for you guys. We're having a lot of fun. Can't wait to interact. Can't wait to see what you think. Let's get rolling.
And we'll turn the music off. An elongated intro. I think everybody in the world gets so hyped up for that song and gets just hyped up in general for NFL Sunday. We were saying off the air, we're so blessed to bring you guys this broadcast to compete in this competition. Shout out to Circa Millions for putting out a great competition. It is top 5 plays of the week. We are playing them all officially this week. Some weeks we won't, but not waiting around. MetLife Stadium, 1 p.m. in the rain. Lamar Jackson off contract confusion. A man-possessed year 5, early prime. Odds Fellow. -6.5, an official.
Unofficial. We got it in the contest. I got it at 6.5. That line has been moving. I've seen some discrepancy in different spots. So shop around if you're looking pregame, but hopefully you can get it. Lock Bets is on his way in the parking lot. He'll have the Jets corduroy hat. If you want to find him, he's out there. He's out there. But we're taking Lamar. The contract extension talk, the negotiations, not a distraction. A lot of people have slid into DMs. They've asked us on Twitter. They said, do you think that's an issue? Do you think that's a distraction? No, folks. I think that's a motivator. I want the guy in a contract year. But let's talk about Baltimore last year. Number 1 seed in the NFL as of December 1st at 8-3 before the bottom kind of fell out. Now, this was already a team that had injuries preseason, injuries throughout the first few months of the year. Let's talk about some of the guys they lost, right? Because you talk about Football Outsiders health metrics. They were ranked 32nd in 2021. So we're going to talk about regression a lot. I know Sharks got some regression at ATS coming up, but health regression alone should get better for these guys. A team that wanted to run the ball lost pretty much every starting running back that they could have had before the season even started. Then you lose tackle Ronnie Staley, tight end Nick Boyle, cornerback Marcus Peters. Lamar had some COVID issues, right? So riddled with injuries. Now, Lamar himself has started 49 of 55 games since he became a starter. So you get great durability. I think he comes back strong. This is a team that wants to run the ball. They were first in run rate in 2019, second in run rate in 2020. Then they lose those running backs. They lose that offensive line. Now you get everybody coming back in, coming healthy, right? Now, on the other side, the flip side of this is despite the roster growth, that Jets defense was terrible last year. And I don't think they did enough to take all those strides and get better right away. They did improve a little bit in the secondary. You get Sauce Gardner in the draft. You pick up 2 other corners and safeties in Jordan Whitehead and DJ Reed. But this defense against the pass of the run was awful. They were last in EPA per play and bottom 10 in EPA per rush, right, on defense. So not a good defensive squad. Although that's Salah's focus, I don't think they can do enough to stop this healthy Baltimore rushing attack, this healthy, balanced Baltimore offense. And then you get into the ATS numbers. So, Shark, let's go there.
Absolutely. And, when I started looking at this game, I was just in disbelief at the element of buy low with this Ravens team. Of course, Lamar Jackson came out of nowhere effectively. He was underdrafted for sure. Heisman Trophy winner out of Louisville. I mean, the guy was an absolute highlight reel. And of course, NFL GMs start to overthink, will this translate to pro ball? Shout to John Harbaugh and the boys for moving on from Flacco and plugging in a new generation. And this guy has been electric since the beginning of his career. And you go back 2 seasons ago, this team did lose in the divisional round to our boy, Josh Allen and the Bills. Go back 1 season before that, this team was the 1 seed, and they lost at home to Tennessee in the divisional round. So this team is a perennial playoff team with Lamar Jackson in his early years. And this scheme, and of course, historically, coming over, people forget sometimes these are the ex-Browns, the Belichick Browns that did win a Super Bowl in the year 2000, I believe. This is a stalwart franchise, a professional franchise coming in here on an L6. And this team was 1-7 ATS on the road last year. Their only cover was a 23-7 blowout of Drew Lock and Denver in, I believe, week 4. So you're getting a buy low on their ATS efficiency on the road, a buy low in their straight up efficiency. You're getting a pissed off Lamar. You go to the other side of this game real quick. Last year, when Zach Wilson didn't play, the Jets were 1-4 ATS. Flacco had one start. It was at home, and they did lose, maybe not coincidentally, by 7 points on the number to Miami. We love the number at 6.5. 1 unit play official. Guns picks. We are going Hard Knocks. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Eminem in the last episode. Detroit +5, an official.
Listen, maybe I bought a little bit into the Hard Knocks thing. I usually don't do this, but when I watch Dan Campbell, man, do I get motivated. That dude is a leader of men. I think he's got this team right around where he needs them to be. Listen, last year was a fluke, but this team competed at the end of the season. They were really good at covering spreads. And also, you got to look at Jared Goff. He's always done well in week 1. I think he's 5-0 against the spread in his career in that spot, or at least in his last 5. Granted, most of that was with the Rams. I'm not taking that into account. I still think I like this Detroit team. Now you look at Philly. Philly is 3-13 against the spread in September, so they're slow starters. They don't get the wheels pumping and the engine going until probably October, November. I like Philly to win the conference in the NFC East. But, I mean, listen, Detroit getting a +5, that's a key number to me. And it's a home dog situation, 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 games overall, and 4-0 against the spread as a home dog. I'm going to be really high on this Detroit team all season, and I think this is a value getting Detroit at +5. So give me that all day long.
Yeah, and I think a great point on that. I was watching Hard Knocks too, and I think this is a dynamic historically where people like to buy the Hard Knocks team in week 1. You know, you're watching a team, you get behind all the guys are getting cut, they keep a couple guys. Particularly the coaching staff really struck me. All ex-players. And I was talking about this the other day. Deuce Staley, for me, he's a head coaching energy. The guy is just an absolute body and mind. And you look at that guy's career with Philadelphia. I mean, a lower draft pick, had to grind behind a bunch of running backs. His career told the story of his mental makeup. And you see him on the offensive side of the ball there. I mean, this guy absolutely competes as a head coach. And that is within this group. And I think the takeaway from Hard Knocks was purely, this is not a playoff team. It's a rebooted roster. Young guys, of course, Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan, an absolute assassin on the D-line. This team knows they're not great, and that's fine. We're building. It's the process. Stay the course 1 week at a time, and they're going to compete. And what's the final takeaway on that? When you get a +5 against a Philadelphia team that beat you 44-6 last year on Halloween, +5 is a big number for a scrappy team, and the back door could be open in this game. Good look there. Sharp contrarian stuff. Next play, odds fellow. We're going to Soldier Field, 1 o'clock. That is noon in Chicago. An early start, perhaps. An under 40.5.
An early start, maybe a sluggish start. That's what we want when Vegas goes low, when the number goes low. I like to go lower. This thing is 2 to 2.5 points below any other total on the board. I got it at 40.5 the other day. I've seen some 40s out there. You do want to get it before it probably hits like a 39.5 if it dips any further. Probably won't move. Hopefully it doesn't. But I think when you just look at the stylistic matchup here and what these two teams want to do. You know, Kyle Shanahan does run a plug and play type of system, especially for his quarterbacks. Now, this under the passing side, he's generated a high expected completion percentage. So that's a next gen stat that they track since 2017. He's had a bunch of guys cycle out, but he's been able to generate good looks for those guys. He's got that expected completion percentage sitting at 13th or top 10 every year, except for 1 year where they were 13th with Mullins. And 4 different times, those guys have been in the top 5. So he's going to set things up nicely for Trey Lance here to get things going. We're getting a visitor from a little 3-year-old, so I got to make sure he's okay too. but you never know what you're going to get when the dad bods come on the air, right? But, really what I want to see here is, that completion percentage, the carries, the offense that Kyle Shanahan wants to run. Last year, this team was 6th in carries at 499. So they're going to try to grind. And I think Trey Lance, too, is going to get a lot of those early carries and a lot of that look that San Francisco is going to try and get going. Now, Chicago is a little bit better against the run. So that is another counterattack there, right? Now, when you go to the other side of the ball and you look at Chicago, this is a team that you probably heard a lot about in the offseason. Lack of skill positions, lack of protection, lack of offensive line help, lack of really giving Justin Fields what he might need to succeed in this offense. Going against probably the number one unit from a defensive front seven standpoint, and those pass rushers that are in San Francisco. I think this is going to be a grind of a game throughout. I think Shanahan is going to play it conservatively, set up his guy for success, and I think Chicago and Justin Fields is going to struggle to move the ball. So I love that number under 40.5. I looked at the first half split a little bit, but tough when it starts going that low. That number was sitting about 20-21, something I don't want to sweat first half and just kind of avoid, because you could get the thing where, I've seen it happen. San Francisco jumps out. Maybe this thing is out to a quick pace. Don't worry about it. It could slow down in the second half, right? So under 40.5, I do think Trey Lance will get over some rushing prop total well. See those numbers sitting at about 37, 38. You got to do your homework, got to shop. I got 37.5 at -110. Had 2 last year. He did play most of the game October 3rd. Against Seattle when Jimmy G left in the first half with an injury, and then 2 official starts after that on October 10th, the week after, and then early in 2022 on January 2nd. In those 3 games, he went 7 for 41 in the game he replaced, 16 for 89 yards in that second start on October 10th, and then 8 for 31 yards against Houston in 2022. Now, again, 2 of those 3 went over that number, right? But I think when you look at the attack and the way Shanahan is going to set this up for him to have early success and get comfortable, he's now had the entire offseason to set this up for Trey Lance with the playbook, to set up the offense, set up the weapons. You're going to see more of a rushing attack, maybe not as aggressive as the Ravens have gone over the years with Lamar Jackson, but some of that same stylistically, some of that same creativity that I think is going to be out there. So I like the prop at a half unit. I love the under at a full unit. And let's hope it's messy in Chicago and Shoulder Field this Sunday.
Yeah, excuse me. And another point on that, you go back to last year's game. It was a higher scoring game. It was 33-22. Also on Halloween, I believe. Don't check me on that. I'm not so familiar with Halloween last year. I think it was a good one. I'm not too sure. But 33-22 at a 55, you come all the way down to 40.5. And I was making the comment when I did the show with Jay Money. Shout out to Jay Money. I think he's doing a show in an hour. But this reminds me right now with San Francisco of what they did when they moved on from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick. Older QB, pocket QB, Alex Smith, slightly more mobile than Jimmy Garoppolo, but young guy, lower draft pick, slightly underrated, athletic, gunslinger, North Dakota State, Nevada. And you remember when they moved on from Alex Smith, they were already a deep playoff team at that point. And Cap took them to the Super Bowl. And they became the swag house, basically. I remember in 2011, 2012, when that team stepped on the field, Colin Kaepernick, diesel as hell, tatted the hell up, just smashing guys, running like a 4.35 40. I mean, this was swag house football. And I think they're going to bring it back. I think this San Francisco team this year is top 4 in the league in team total expectancy to and over. And this team is an absolute buy team. And I think it's going to be defensive football. As you mentioned, their defensive line is just 6 or 7 gladiators. This is going to be the team. If you like big time shit, if you like to compete, watch this team, root for this team for the sake of just being a dough.
Yeah, one of my favorites in the NFC. I think you think about the culture they've built, the talent, the depth, right? They're a win now team. That's really interesting with such a young quarterback, but I'm so excited to watch it.
Aligned completely. And speaking of maybe a lack of alignment with the public, Guns picks, next pick, keeping it bottom feeder, but maybe not incorrect, Houston +7.
Listen, this is more of a fade spot of Indianapolis. They basically treat the quarterback position like college football teams treat the transfer portal. It's just open up a can of new quarterbacks. They just go and find the veteran and go get him. And they have a good offensive line. They have one of the best running backs in the league in Jonathan Taylor. I just think that Matt Ryan is just I don't trust him as a quarterback. I don't care what team he's on. I know he's got great numbers. I just think it's a 37-year-old quarterback, long in the tooth. He's not doing TB12 like Tom Brady in Tampa. So I think this is a good spot for Houston. Listen, this is the time to buy Houston right now. I think what they did in the end of the season, especially against the spread, they were just a better team. So you're going to see some progression from last season, bring that over into 2022. And also there's a great trend about division home dogs, 19-5-1 against the spread in the last 25 in these spots. So always a good system to take the home dog, especially when you're talking about divisional rivals that see each other twice a year. Also, Houston 6-2 against the spread versus the AFC South in their own conference. So this is one of those spots where I think it's okay to take the bad team, plug your nose, and take the +7. It's a key number to me, and I just don't think Indianapolis, at least in week 1, is going to beat somebody by more than a touchdown. So give me Houston +7.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. Obviously, there's been a QB carousel in Indianapolis for a period of time. Obviously, Frank Reich, shouts to the 90s. That was the biggest comeback in the 90s, I think, for all of us that were born in the 80s. Remember that game against, I believe it was who? The Oilers. Warren Moon up there in Buffalo. Frank Reich coming into the game. Little trivia for you guys. 300 in the chat watching. We see you guys, and we appreciate the hell out of you guys for watching our show. 10:30 a.m. on a Sunday Not So Casual, sharp 7-point Sunday. But that being said, Frank Reich, hell of a coach, has yet to find his quarterback. Phillip Rivers, too old. Carson Wentz, honestly, who knows what happened? Really, the guy was a prototype MVP, just gone. Now they plug in Matt Ryan. As you mentioned, 37 years old. 37 may not be as old as it once was in the NFL. Of course, Tom Brady, 45, defying all logic. But I do think the rallying point for Houston here is Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith is the perfect middle ground between an authoritarian coach and a player's coach. And we talk about this very often. Some guys are way too autocratic dictators, and some guys are way too much of a bro with the guys. Lovie is the middle ground. He had success in Chicago, obviously coming out here out of the CFB ranks from Illinois. They will rally around this guy. Davis Mills, an unknown short figure, as Gunn said, divisional home dogs, the best long-term trend to buy in week 1. Good look there, Guns. I'm not disagreeing. Next play, odds fellow, Minnesota Vikings, 4:25 p.m. Aaron Rodgers just got a haircut, just got on a plane. But the Minnesota team is lying in the wake, underrated. Tell us what's going on here.
Did you just say divisional home dog? Another divisional home dog, a team that maybe this year thinks they can make the jump and think they can make the transition. Now, one thing that does scare me a little bit.
They're not a dog right now. The line jumped to -1.
Well, so that's what I was going to ask. I do think this thing is getting steamed and moving all over the place. Shark released it after we talked with Fusini and the old man who bets. The guys were having some fun in the contest with. It was 2.5, a month ago, and it, then it was 1.5. That's where I released it the other day. Then I saw Pick'em and Guns. You just said even right now it's minus in some spots, right?
Yeah, it was Pick'em as of last night, and then this morning it moved up to like -2.
That could backfire in our face. I've seen that happen before. But look, this is a all boxes checked spot for Minnesota. Green Bay had, a lot of noise in the offseason, a lot of movement, the Devontae Adams change. Are they still deep? Are they still very good? Do they still have a great defense that I don't think gets enough attention? Yes, Green Bay is still a hell of a squad. This is a 2-team race in this division, but Minnesota knows they have to get off to a hot start, and this is the spot to do it in. You got Green Bay coming into your house. You can take care of business. And what I really love about this team and this change is the depth, but really the change in culture. And we've talked about this a few times, right? We talked about Dan Campbell in Detroit. Shark was just breaking it down a little bit. I think we're going to, mention Brian Dable and what he's doing in New York. Kevin O'Connell coming out of that Rams coaching tree, that McVay coaching tree, an offensive sharp mind is just the type of thing that you need to plug in to Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, a good offensive line, Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, right? Not enough people giving respect and love to Kirk Cousins. This is a dynamic offense. And I do think with Kevin O'Connell just changing things, getting away from that Mike Zimmer regime that was shooting themselves in the foot, struggling late in games, losing close games, one-score games, not really focused offensive, right? Zimmer, a defensive-minded coach, wasn't, probably setting up that offense for success the way they needed to do. This is the type of spot where Minnesota needs to get off the gun early, and I think that's what they're going to do. So we have 1.5. I like them to win outright. So, those numbers right around pick'em, I think, are still a good spot. And let's hope that Minnesota offense can get clicking, get a leg up in the division. I know that's a sexy pick for a lot of people in the futures market too, is them probably sitting around the plus 240, plus 260 market to win the NFC North. So we'll see, but I love Minnesota to get it done here. And I do think it's going to be a dynamic squad this season.
Yeah, and of course I dropped this, I believe, August 24th. I went back and looked at that when I saw this team this morning. That's where we got our plus 2.5. And of course, that's a snapshot to looking at things before they move. It's very important, and CLV does matter. I don't cap CLV because when you're looking to beat the line, you're not even looking at the game. That's not great. But if you look at the game and you beat the line, you won twice. So we're in a great position at plus 2.5. Couple more points on this. There's a lot of psychology going on with the Packers side of this game. The Packers right now are a team in flux. Aaron Rodgers, older quarterback, crazy to say that. I mean, the career has flown by. But older quarterback, young receiving core. Devontae Adams with the Raiders, hanging out with Derek Carr, having a bromance out there. But that's 123 catches removed from last year. And those are the big catches. Third downs, fourth quarter, tight window game catches, and knowing where your guy is going to be in a key moment. Rodgers does not have that type of flow with these guys whatsoever. He's made a couple comments that were very noteworthy. The media said, "So what's going on in week one? And what's going to happen in Minnesota?" He basically preempted a loss with his comment. He said, "It's a long season. We could go in there and win, but if we don't, it's not the end of the world. We're going to figure it out as we go." If you're back in Green Bay, you don't want to hear that as your comment at all. And you go back to last year, Green Bay, 13-4 on the campaign. This was a great season for them, but you got to go a little deeper and you got to go to their road calendar. They were 6-3 straight up on the road, 3 losses. One of those was in Minnesota, 34-31. And this is a Minnesota team that lost 9 ball games last year, 8 by 1 possession. Green Bay last year in the division on the road was 1-2 ATS, and they were unimpressive across the board. Outright loss to Minnesota, 34-31 in the middle of the season, 37-30 loss at the end of the season to Detroit, and a backdoor last possession cover against Chicago, who we talked about before, really was the low bottom feeder level of the league. So they were generally unimpressive in all road divisional spots. And out of their 6 road wins, 4 of those wins were by 2 points, 3 points in overtime at Cincinnati, 3 points against Arizona, where Arizona had that game and kind of gave it away, and 1 point in Baltimore. This team could have lost all 4 of those games and gone 2-7 straight up on the road with just a small differentiation in their variance. This team is not a good road team. They're not good road in division. This is a time for Kevin O'Connell, new GM out of Princeton, shout Ivy League, the Sharps. This is a new generation. Stand the hell up, 425 in the division. Guns Picks has the jersey on, traveling to Miami, I believe. Tua and the boys, Tyreek Hill, new coach, Bill Belichick, not a new coach, in Miami, 1 o'clock, Guns Picks, an official.
And no, this is not a homer call. I'm taking the Patriots plus 3.5. Listen, I know the history with Miami. I know that it's always a tough place to play for New England. But this isn't the Flores era, folks. This is the Mike McDaniel era. Basically taking the Shanahan offense, trying to bring it down to Miami. They got new weapons in Tyreek Hill. That's going to go accompanied with Jalen Waddle in this situation. But I think Tua has not actually built the chemistry and the dynamics with his receivers over the offseason. Listen, I don't think Jalen Waddle has practiced in days now. And I think there's a lot of question marks in the offense there. And also the defensive side. I think the defensive side is going to have a drop off where Flores is gone. And, Mike McDaniel, not a defensive mind. I have questions on the DC side on this one as well. So when you actually look at New England overall, they lost both matchups last year. But when you're in those situations, which a lot of teams are, if you lose both of your matchups against your divisional opponent from the year before, and you go into the first game, which would be the third game in the matchup, it's 22-10 against the spread in the next meeting. So that you're in a good spot situationally from an ATS standpoint. Now, New England, you actually look at the point differential from both these teams last year. New England was a plus 159 point differential, where Miami, who finished 9-8, was minus 32 point differential. There's also a revenge factor. I want to talk about the last game they played. They played at the end of the season, and it was a key game for the Patriots because they were playing for positioning in the playoffs. And when they lost that game, they had to go to Buffalo. And you know what Buffalo did to them in that game. So it kind of put them in a bad position going into the playoffs. And I think that's going to reign true with this New England team. Also, I mean, like I said, you got a new coach, you got a new offense. You got questions on the defensive side for Miami, and you don't have any questions. You know what to expect when you got New England. Mac Jones, I think, is going to have a great game in this spot, and you got him at plus 3.5. You're over a key number. I'll take that dog all day long. Give me the Patriots plus 3.5.
Yeah, and one thing on that, I mean, for me, and I'm a guy that's high on the Dolphins. I'm higher on Tua probably than most. I'm excited to see what they do. I do think the regime change long term is going to be beneficial because Flores did not back to that offense get going.
Correct.
But to look at where this line started, because we touched on CLV a little bit here, this is another number that has moved significantly. And now to be over that 3, I think is a big difference. I see this, even if Miami wins outright, as a 1, 2, 3-point game. You can't really, for me, go the other way and take the Dolphins over that hook. So just wanted to chime in.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, look at Texas Tech yesterday. Speaking of hooks, I mean, that line was 3 all week, got to 3.5. I knew it. And, I make mistakes too. And I knew it. And I was like, 3.5 is a shit line. And there it goes, 33-30. But staying within the NFL, a couple more comments on this. Obviously, going through the Patriots' history since the beginning of the Belichick era, going back to the year 2000, 2001, Miami has been just an absolute death zone spot for them to travel to. And the thing that I ask myself is, how much of that was Tom Brady? And how much of that is just Tom Brady for the person he is? And, I talk about this all the time. They're human beings. They have tendencies and frequencies that just like everybody else. So something about Tom goes to Miami, does Tom have, a side chick? Probably not. But does he have a hotel room? Is he down on the strip? Does he have a restaurant? Can he not function in the heat? He's from Northern California, Michigan, New England. Is it Tom Brady or is it Belichick? I think it was more Brady, honestly. I think Belichick coaches the game pretty normally every venue, about the same. And the fact that Brady had the same consistency in Denver, which, again, for whatever reason was enigmatic for him, maybe the air, the environment, whatever. I think this is definitely a buy low, theoretically, for the Patriots in a new generation in Miami. And, of course, as Anthony said, 3.5 is a terrible number. You're in a tough spot. And you just don't know how this new coach is going to function. And Tyreek Hill coming over here. Tyreek Hill had, just an electric career with Kansas City, but he had one of the best ball distributors in league history. Tua is not one of the best ball distributors in league history. So now all of a sudden Tua misses a couple throws. Tyreek, noted for being a little explosive. Does this go south real quick? A lot of psychological points that could go south in this matchup. So I think you got a sharp look. I think there's a lot of angles surrounding it. Next play, we are going 425 yet again. Anthony was talking about it. A man named Dable, new coach, Giants, on the road at Tennessee, official.
Yeah, I'm super low on this Tennessee Titans squad. They've probably overachieved the last few years with they had the injury with Derrick Henry last year. And not a lot of people are high on the Giants. So I love this pick, love this spot, love getting the points. Another number that's moved around significantly, which I think speaks to how tight, how sharp probably some of these games are going to be. You saw this number up around 6.5 in a lot of spots, dipped to 5.5, has been in that 5 to 6 range for some time. But again, it's culture change for me, right? Versus kind of a stale offensive offseason again for the Titans. So I think the Giants are going to do a lot to keep this thing close. better weapons on offense, a healthy Saquon Barkley, which I'm really excited to watch. The line has improved, and I don't think getting enough credit because they've been so bad on the offensive line in the last few years. And you're talking about a Tennessee Titans team in front that really hasn't gotten after the quarterback as much as they probably want to with Vrabel at the helm. So I think you're going to see a little bit of regression from that Titans offense. AJ Brown goes out. Derrick Henry obviously gets inserted back in, but when you look at some of his stats last year, just wasn't averaging the same kind of punch yards per carry that a lot of people thought. He was still getting high volume, but not really achieving some of those previous 2 years yards per carry, even though he was getting the attempts. So love the Giants in this spot, especially if you can get it over 6.5.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, ultimately, when you look at Derrick Henry, you look back historically with top running backs. I mean, I remember going back to the 90s.
It's a cliff.
When Barry Sanders was retired, people said to themselves, is this man insane? He's the best back in the sport. But now, as we've learned a lot more about NFL, running backs, the physicality, you start to realize he got his ass kicked for about 15 straight years dating back to high school. He was just done. And now you look at guys, their shelf life is 4 to 5 years. And there's a noticeable, as you said, yards per carry drop off after year 4 with premier backs. And it's a very sustainable thing. And again, it goes back to that idea that people in society watching pro football don't connect with just how much of a grind it is and how physical it really is. These guys make it look easy and they get beat down. So this is definitely, he probably peaked 2 years ago fantasy wise. I don't think it's going to go back up to that. And staying course with this, the official play for me as well. I'm on 6.5. Of course, we did get this in the middle of the summer. We're at 5.5 now. But all the points that Anthony made, talking about the Giants a little bit. Brian Dable coming in here, OC from the Buffalo Bills. I think that's a snapshot to the mentality of McDermott up there. I love McDermott, kind of a young Belichick almost. And I think Dable brings that professionalism in. I saw him talking a little bit. I like his quotes. I like his mentality. Great change up from Joe Judge. Giants last year started the ATS campaign on the road, 3-1 actually, ATS. And they had 2 really impressive out of division games, 20-17 loss at Kansas City and an overtime win in New Orleans. This team will compete. Saquon Barkley is healthy for the first time in probably 24 months. And I think Daniel Jones will be reinvented, rejuvenated, a new scheme and a new mentality. We're on the Giants here, and I think Tennessee, final point, looking ahead, Monday Night Football, week 2 in Buffalo. Trap spot here. Staying course, Guns Picks. Chalk special, 1 o'clock, Fox Sports, divisional battle, NFC South. New Orleans, new coach, Dennis Allen, -5.5.
Yeah, this is going against my system mentality of taking a divisional home dog, but I just can't back this Falcons team. They're just a mess across the board. They got rid of Matt Ryan. They're going to have to go with Marcus Mariota as their quarterback, with Desmond Ritter sitting in the cut, waiting for his opportunity to be the quarterback for this team. But listen, they're playing a Saints team that I am extremely high on, and quite frankly, I think they're going to take over the NFC South and win this division over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you get them at plus value. But you look at the Saints defense, they're projected to be number 3 overall this season. They had the 4th lowest average QB rating last season. And they had the 3rd lowest touchdown rate. So, I mean, this is a good defense altogether. And not to mention that they were the best at stopping the run. They only gave up 3.7 yards per carry to their opponents, which was number 1 in the NFL last season. So, and they're bringing back a ton of the products that got them there last season. And I think they're going to excel and actually be one of the toughest defenses in the league. And then also you got to bring into the fact that Jameis Winston is back. And I know a lot of people just remember the Jameis Winston from Tampa, the one that threw all the picks and didn't have a great touchdown to interception ratio. But when he played those 6 games with the Saints, he played well. He had 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 102.8 QB rating. So you have Jameis back and you give him a ton of weapons this season. You got Jarvis Landry as part of the team now. They have Chris Olave from the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think this is going to be a very high-powered offense. And then you got Alvin Kamara in the backfield. This is going to be a very tough team. They got a great offensive line as well. And really Atlanta, that they're just a shambles all across the board. They were ranked towards the bottom in the offensive line. So if you can cover the receivers, which I think they can, I don't know if Drake London is going to even play in this game. So I think they can match up one-on-one and then just basically pass rush the crap out of Mariota and get him off his game and get him off his rhythm. I think that's what's going to happen in this spot. And I don't mind being on the public side with this Saints team because I'm going to be really high on them all season as long as Jameis Winston stays healthy. -5.5. I'll take it under a touchdown. And usually in this matchup, the away team typically covers when you're talking about the Saints in Atlanta. So you always go with the away team. I'm going to go down that trend as well. Give me the Saints -5.5.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I always talk about this. There will be chalk sides to hit. It's not going to be 100% contrarian. It's not going to be 100% Joe Public. And you do go back to last year. These teams did finish the season against each other. And New Orleans did go into Atlanta in week 18, not 17, 18, and win 32-20 by 10 on a -4.5. And this opened up at 5.5. Line functionality applies best in the NFL in divisional matchups twice a year as opposed to once every 4 years. You are 8 times more data abundant in the division. I think this is a sharp look. And I think Atlanta, again, bottom 3 in terms of projections and win totals. Arthur Smith, second-year head coach, ex-offensive coordinator for Tennessee, doesn't strike me as a leader of men. Marcus Mariota has never been a leader of men, underspoken. I think there's a lack of juice in this locker room. And I think Marcus Mariota, unfortunately, is not a guy getting a career second chance. I think he's just not a great NFL quarterback. I think he's very pedestrian second level. And I think this is definitely a spot for the Saints to turn up. Dennis Allen, of course, did coach the Raiders 10 years ago from 2012 to 2014. Back at that point in time, people were very confused by the hire. He was so young. He was definitely not particularly regarded in the NFL. But defensive coordinator now under Sean Payton for 6 years, continuity with the hire. And as you mentioned, Jameis Winston really found his flow with this franchise. I think he balls out today. I think New Orleans is a very solid look. Guns, coming right back to you. Pittsburgh on the road. Pittsburgh lost twice last year. Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl. Believe it or not, I still can't believe it. Pittsburgh on the road, +7, a number you like.
Super Bowl runner-ups. There's always a hangover. And typically this happens to these teams. And unfortunately, I think this is going to happen to the Bengals. I think this line is basically predicated on 2 key points. The Pittsburgh offensive line, which is absolutely in shambles. I do agree with that. And their quarterback is named Mitch Trubisky, the captain, Mitch Trubisky from the University of North Carolina. This is probably the best team that he's actually had to play for. Granted, I mean, we're talking the Bears, and he was just the backup for the Buffalo Bills last season. But Pittsburgh lost both meetings straight up last season. But it goes back to that trend that I mentioned before, back-to-back divisional losses to the same team the year before, come back into the third one, 22-10 against the spread in that spot. I think they're downgrading this Pittsburgh defense. This Pittsburgh defense is fully healthy. I think they're going to really put some pressure on a Joe Burrow that, quite frankly, hasn't been playing all preseason because he's been dealing with his appendectomy. Hopefully I said that right. That injury, he couldn't move. It really took him out. And I'm not 100% sure if he's like fully smooth, ready to go, even though I'm hearing reports from the interviews that I hear on the news press is that he's fine and he's ready to go. But the Saints, they just not, I mean, really, with those concerns with the offensive line, I can kind of throw that to the side. I think they can run the ball well. I think Pittsburgh is really going to try to, play a lot better than they did last season. I know they have a great quarterback in Kenny Pickett in the waiting. So I think they're going to really show out here, especially underperforming last season versus the Bengals. I know that offense is great, but that defense can match up with them. So I get them at a touchdown. Give me the +7. I know it's still out there at -115. If I've seen some books with that, it may drop. I'm hoping. So if it does drop, then I'm on the right side. So I'll take the Steelers in this one +7.
And don't sleep on what that Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin-led team did in week 1 last season with a whole offseason to prepare. They came in and walloped Buffalo and probably made Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who, got deep in the playoffs, obviously a contender this year, and they made him look silly. So, could be a similar spot there against the division, against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Great. Yeah. And I want to segue out. I want to drop one game. We're not going to discuss this game. I made the comment before, this is an office pool game. Washington laying -2.5 to Jacksonville. A lot of moving parts. Doug Peterson comes in. Trevor Lawrence, campaign 2, obviously should improve immensely, similar to Peyton Manning, campaign 1 versus 2. Huge adjustment, just seeing enough scheme in the offseason. This game, for me, I have no lean. Office pool, I would probably take Washington. I think they probably get there by 3, like 24-21 or something like that. Razor sharp stuff. I'm not even going to throw it to you guys, but I will throw it back to Anthony. This is an unofficial play, but I know people want to talk about this game. Carolina Panthers hosting the Browns. 1 o'clock in North Carolina. You got Baker Mayfield coming over here. You got Deshaun Watson in his house watching and hopefully not getting a massage in his interim here. But Baker against his old team, 0-3 in his last 3 openers with the Browns, but the Browns are 0-17 in their last 17 openers. So which side of this game do you buy? Anthony, any angles?
It's so hard. I think the problem is, and there's a couple revenge game angles. There's one on Monday night with Russ going back to Seattle. We got a little bit with Flacco against his old squad. The NFL schedule makers did us good in week 1 this year. But this one, probably the biggest on the board that people are talking about. Baker Mayfield wants to beat this team. Now, he is a leader. He is a motivator. I do think he's going to have the Carolina Panthers juiced up. I think the problem here and where the merge comes into play is that's a lazy angle and a lazy take to me to just check the box and say pure revenge. That's the spot. It's a tight game. I think your best bet here and what I'm going to do is look to bet it live if it gets a little bit out of hand or gets quick one way or the other, because you probably have value in the game tightening up. And what people aren't talking about enough is, Jacoby Brissett last year, not good. Historically, a decent backup quarterback, a guy who's come in and been able to steady the ship. He was not good in Miami. I'm shocked he did not seize that starting job from Tua with a better roster around him in Miami. But this roster that he now has is probably the best he's ever been with, besides maybe one of those Indianapolis Colts team. This Browns team is deep on offense and on defense, and they're well coached. So yes, is it a problem they don't have Deshaun Watson? Yes. But that roster, top to bottom, is better besides the quarterback position than the Carolina Panthers. So too much merge for me to make it official pregame, but could be great live value, great live spot. I'm excited to watch it because, Baker's going to go out and show out. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is definitely a game you want to watch. And that's a great comment because Jacoby Brissett, I'll always remember this. When he was coming out of, I believe, North Carolina State, I think, Bill Parcells said he was the best NFL prototype he had ever seen. I mean, we don't know if Bill was, 10 deep in the lounge after a round of golf
on the Jersey Shore.
But I mean, who knows where that comment came from? But that always stuck with me because I always thought Bill was a sharp mind, and I don't know. But as you mentioned last year, Jacoby Brissett, now been in the league for a period of time, definitely a journeyman, a lifetime backup. Guns, do you think this guy inspires the group, or do you think that they are just deflated not having their starting quarterback?
Probably a combination of both. I think, if you have that dynamic going on in your organization, and it's up to you as the coach to really step in and keep your players on the same wavelength, keep them jiving together, no matter what the adversity that they're going through. It's not just the head coach too. It's got to be all the positional coaches. It's got to be the DC. It's got to be everybody buying on board. If you have that as a unit, then my God, you're going to be successful. But I mean, that's only time will tell with this team. But going back to the Cleveland point, I mean, that 1-2 punch with the running is something that Cleveland's going to probably use a lot more with Brissett back there. Probably take the pressure off of him a lot, not having to throw the ball, get away from those 3rd and long kind of situations. The Baker thing, I know that's a great storyline altogether, but I don't, this Panthers team altogether, I just don't think they're going to be very good this year. And the Cleveland probably be my lean, but Oddsfellow made a great point. It's like, just, check it out live and maybe even watch the first half, and then maybe, there'll be a play on the second half. But this is kind of one of those things that we just have to observe and report right now and see what the dynamic is with Brissett back there.
No, I agree. And, I think that's an interesting point you made about second half bets versus in-game bets. I think oftentimes people can be more profitable eliminating in-game bets from their entire repertoire and only taking second half plays because it's just such a finite, segregated space. and you don't get caught like 4 minutes in the first quarter, 8 minutes in the first quarter. All of a sudden, a team scores middle of the second quarter on 3 units, and you got all different lines, and it's all over the place. If you can just start doing second half plays, you get the entire first half, and you start to also witness how they grade lines historically versus first half outcomes and the game expectancy. And then you see the gaps and you can become really sharp in second half plays only. That's what I do. I never really got into in game because it just became so unbelievably chaotic. And also, again, people need to realize you're betting against an algorithm that's moving a sharp line. You're not getting a good line. You're getting the expected result in the game. So I see this all the time. People are like, wow, I got like a plus 26.5 and the game finished at 27, but the line was 10 to open. It's like, yeah, because that's the adjusted final result, guys. Just remember that. You don't have an edge on the line, but second half, if you scale it properly, you do have a big psychological edge and numerical edge if you want. We're going to be quick on the last couple games here, and then we're dropping one official with the millions to close the broadcast. Let's talk about Kansas City at Arizona briefly. Arizona opened here at plus 3.5. This has gotten steamed aggressively. I saw 6.5 this morning for Kansas City. Of course, Kansas City, the class of the AFC now for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and coming off of a pretty brutal, I wouldn't say demoralizing, I'd say brutal loss in the AFC title game because they should have won that game. Demoralizing is when the Bills lose 42-36 in the most ridiculous fashion. Losing to the Bengals in your home stadium, that's just fairly lame, in my opinion. Bounce back campaign, Kyler Murray and the boys on Hard Knocks, November 9th. Is the regime stale with Kingsbury, or what's going on here? Anthony.
It's so interesting because that Cardinals team should be better. Now, I think where the merge and the narrative comes into play is that the Cardinals team the last 2 years with Kyler and Cliff has come out the gate very well. They've started hot and then faded late. I don't know if that's health. I don't know if that's coaching. I don't know if that's roster depth. But, an interesting thing that we've seen 2 straight seasons that they have to turn around. Kansas City, on the flip side, I think comes in very motivated. Not a lot of people talking about Patrick Mahomes this offseason. A lot of talk about Lamar Jackson. A lot of talk about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And a lot of talk about Joey Burrow and those Cincinnati Bengals that beat them up, right, in that massive second half comeback. So I do think you're going to get a motivated, coached, tight-knit team in Kansas City. They obviously went to Mahomes and said, do you want Tyreek here? Is this going to be an issue? And then they stocked the barrel with some of these other wideouts that I do think can make an impact. But where they really moved money around in the last few years, this has hurt them, is into the offensive line to get the offensive line healthy and get the offensive line better. So for me, it's Kansas City or bust here. But I think just where, it probably was a short to begin with, and now it's steamed up the other way, probably to a spot that I'm going to, again, wait and just see how this game plays out. But for me, the lean's Kansas City. I think too much firepower, too much motivation, and I just don't trust Cliff and Arizona. And DeAndre Hopkins still out. That offense personally without him in the lineup, and we saw that a lot late last year.
Yeah, no, I think that the steam on Kansas City could have been because people do like to bet their fantasy heroes. And with DeAndre Hopkins going out, all of a sudden people say, wow, what's Kyler Murray going to do here? And of course, Kyler Murray, enigmatic, funky comments in the offseason about not watching film, built into his contract a mandate, which is historically unprecedented. I mean, apparently this guy is just negligent in the film room, but he said it's in his mind. He's all good. He has been pretty good. But Anthony, as you mentioned, this team came out 7-0 last year and faded hard down the stretch, culminating in a blowout loss, 34-11 in LA in the playoffs in a divisional game in the first round of the playoffs. I would lean Kansas City here too. I think Sammy Comer in the chat, my guy, makes a great comment. I could see the cards flipping here, starting slow, then turning up back half of the year. Again, that psychological stuff. And this is where a team realizes we're blowing our load too early. I'll give you a team in the NBA, Milwaukee Bucks, the regular season All-Stars. That season they took a step back, they won the title. They saved their energy for late. They're peaking at the right time. And I think that's a really sharp comment there. Let's go to the next one. Final game in the afternoon card. Throw it to guns here real quick. Tough game here, in my opinion. AFC West, real tight line. Justin Herbert and the boys hosting Derek Carr at a -3, -3.5.
Yeah, this is one that, I kind of took a quick glance at it, but when there's only one side that I'd lean on, and I just hate the number, and that's the Chargers side. I think the Chargers are going to be a better team. They had to really fix their problems with stopping the run. They went out there and just reloaded with better defensive guys. They bring in the super talent Mac. That's going to be the linebacker for them. I want to watch this defense play a little bit and see if they can actually improve stopping the run. I do think they can with the moves that they made, because they obviously recognize their weakness and did the fix. The offense you don't have to fix. That offense is going to be absolutely stellar. Justin Herbert is an absolute legend, a star. They have the great wide receivers. They still got a great running back core as well. So offensively, they're going to be fine. Looking at the other side with the Raiders, I don't know what the chemistry is with Derek Carr and his receivers. Listen, they go out and get Aaron Rodgers' boy, and I don't know how that's going to work out. I know he's a huge target. Devontae Adams, especially in the red zone, and that kind of concerns me on the Packers side too. Is like, what are you going to do in the red zone now? Who are you going to throw to? Who's your target? You're going to have to use the running backs a little bit more, and A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. But when you look at this Raiders team, I just don't know how good they're going to be. This is a playoff team last year, and these two teams matched up at the end of the season to get into the playoffs. So there may be a revenge factor on the Chargers side. So that kind of plays into the Chargers argument. But, when I see the line at 3.5, I just don't like taking favorites at that number. That's a key number to me. And these teams played close last year. So this is a pass for me.
And anything on this one?
No, very similar. I really want to see how this, McDaniels, now his second opportunity as a coach, does he do the same Bill Belichick bounce back and maybe get going and become one of the greatest of all time? We don't know. He's obviously got a great offensive mind. Even going back to the Chiefs game a little bit, why I'm hesitant to bet that Chiefs side is this division is really tough. I think these teams are going to beat the shit out of each other all year. We heard about the quarterbacks all year. We heard about the talent. Just to see an in-division game, the revenge factor from Week 18, like Guns mentioned, I really want to see how this one plays out and then start seeing how this division forms. Could be an interesting spot where you get some future value on a division winner down the road as these teams start beating each other up, because I think it's going to be tight top to bottom.
Yeah, no, I agree. When I looked at this, I thought the line was crazy sharp, and I just know how these teams play each other. They're very unregulated, not a lot of defense back and forth. It's almost like college football, honestly. You saw the game last year to close the season 35-32, multiple lead changes in the final 5 minutes. I think it's going to be similar tonight. Again, new rosters for both teams, a lot of moving parts. Tough game to cap. We will finish with the nightcap. Tampa Bay at Dallas. Anthony Latino, fandom in the New York area, believing the Cowboys will probably win this game. And, you look at last year in the opener, Tom Brady and the boys were the defending champions at that point in time, and they played Dallas at home. They laid 9 points, and they won the game 31-29. When you go on the road and you lay 2.5 after a 9 at home, this is still out of the division, so it's slightly more ambiguous. It's short. It's telling you Tampa Bay, I don't know if his name is Scott, Bowles coming in there, Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles. Regime change. We don't know what Brady's doing. He wasn't there for half a training camp. The rumor mill is immense. And Dak Prescott and the boys, I said it the other day, I'll say it again. The time is now. Dicking around for 3.5 years, great leader, great man, all this stuff. It has to translate to the field. Ezekiel Elliott, similar to what we said about Derrick Henry before, he's past his rookie bump. He's now a veteran who's gotten his ass kicked. Can he sustain it over 4 yards a carry? Can they get there in this window, in this generation? Anthony, what do you think about this game tonight?
Yeah, so tough. I mean, the line functionality all over Dallas, like you said. I think these are two teams that really had some strange off seasons, right? Dallas, because they were losing players or they got banged up. Losing Tyron Smith hurts. But you do have a rookie that's going to move from guard to tackle that I'm excited about. Dak's excited about him. You heard a little bit of buzz about Dak talking about his opportunity, his rookie year, playing in the preseason and then taking over and then never looking back and never giving that spot back. And maybe that's what we get here in this tackle position. The 1-2 punch, Zeke is healthier. He was hurt last year that a lot of people weren't talking about. Maybe over the hump a little bit, but now he can get spelled by Tony Pollard. So and still has the weapons. CeeDee Lamb as a number 1 wide receiver is going to be really interesting to watch. That wide receiver corpse They let Amari Cooper walk. Gallup is still banged up, but they've been able to plug and play a lot of guys in there, which I think speaks to Dak's control of the offense, the continuity with Mike McCarthy. So hopefully they don't shoot themselves in the foot. Defensively, you're going to have regression. That team turned over the offenses they faced a lot last year. That doesn't happen year to year. So that was probably a buzzword offseason stat you guys heard about a lot if you were listening to a lot of futures podcasts or gambling podcasts. And yes, it's probably going to happen, but it's still a very good defensive team. Micah Parsons may be one of the leaders or favorites for Defensive Player of the Year. He's an anchor. They got better in some other spots. I think the secondary will still be strong, even if they're not ball hawking every day. And a lot of unknowns with Tampa, right? The swirl around their offensive line. The Tom Brady distractions, right? The Todd Bowles switchover. Still really good, talented teams on both sides of the ball. So for me here, it's looking at all over Dallas or nothing. I'm excited to sit back and watch it as a fan. Hopefully the Cowboys get off to a start because they're going to need to win some of these tough games that they have. Having the toughest schedule in their division this season. So let's enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mentioned how short this line is. If I had to give a lean here, and again, at a certain point in time, I do burn out to a degree. We're going to be gambling all afternoon. It's like, do you really want to sweat another game overnight? I mean, last night I was up till 3 a.m, losing with the fucking Wildcats. Yeah. Or Mississippi State. I was like, oh my God. But that being said, Guns, any comments here? And then we'll close it out.
I kind of looked at the market this morning to see where everything's going. It looks like a lot of sharp action going towards the Tampa, if you want to look at it that way. But with Tom Brady distraction, I don't know how that's really affected the team. That's kind of an unknown question mark. I know he's going to play in this game. It's hard to really fade Tom Brady in any spot unless I don't know if he's playing somebody that's a little bit stronger. I think the Cowboys are kind of losing Tyron Smith is huge. That blindside tackle, even though they're moving the guard out there and Dax might be excited about it, that can't be as excited as not having your safety net right there with Tyron Smith not blocking for you this year. There's also running back controversy with the Dallas Cowboys. Is Tony Pollard really the guy? Is it Zeke? Is Zeke going to lose his spot as the main receiver? I guess time will tell. And also the receivers are a little bit of a downgrade for the Dallas Cowboys. I know CeeDee Lamb is an absolute beast. He's going to get a lot more looks not having Amari Cooper. But then again, from a defensive perspective, am I supposed to plan a little bit more focused on CeeDee Lamb, knowing I don't have the Cooper crutch anymore as he has gone to the Cleveland Browns. So I mean, the defense is strong for Dallas too. I mean, you hit the point. Oddsfellow just hit on the points, how great the defense is. I have no qualms about that defense at all. I think that's going to be a very strong point for them all season. I think there's a lot of question marks on the offensive side that I need to see, but it's probably going to be a late look for me. I lean Tampa as it is 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I could change my mind by the time kickoff starts. So
the other lean I have is probably the under. It's a high number at like 50.5, 51, I think. But again, we'll see. We'll see what that line does throughout the day. Maybe how some of these other games are even officiated, what that could mean, right? Ways to look at it.
Yep.
Yeah, and off of last year at 60, it's speaking to a lower total for sure. So sharp look there, sharp stuff all around. Closing out an hour in the books. We appreciate everybody on Twitter watching, YouTube watching. We had 300 live. It's a hell of a number. We appreciate you guys immensely. It is the Circa Sportsbook Millions 4 competition show. It is Sharky Waters Nation. 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave right out of the water. The competitors in this competition, 4 ways. Guns is not in it. Guns does his own thing. He's out here throwing all the sharp plays. We got 4 dogs and a crazy favorite, but competitors.
I'm rooting for you guys, though. I'm rooting for you.
Oh, yeah. Anthony Latino, a.k.a. the Odds Fellow. Jeff Sheesby, Old Man Who Bets. Max Kalfas, the Great Fusini, and Graham Sheesby, the Sharks and Sports. We're in for, I believe, $1,100. $1 million up top. Top 5 plays. We are playing Monday Night Football as one of our official plays. That will drop tomorrow. So get ready for a teaser video there. Great day, beautiful day, 7-point Sunday. A blessing to work with you guys. Anthony, a word, throw it to Guns, and we're out.
Good luck, all. Thanks for tuning in, and go Big D.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Make sure you follow us all at Guns Picks, at Shark and Sports, at the Odds Fellow. If you don't follow us already, I doubt you don't. But thanks for joining us. We had over 300 people live today, and we want to keep growing. So like, share, retweet, do whatever you can. Let's get the sharp, get everybody's eyes on us to give you the sharp action to cook the books. So till next time, see you on Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.